Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for watching. I know it is a smidge early for Halloween stuff, but I don't even care. I love Halloween and I'm so excited to make some Halloween themed cakes for you guys. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made this creepy clown cake. Fair warning, it is a little gory, not really, but kind of, so if that sort of stuff makes you all squeamish, then you probably shouldn't watch this one. I'm starting out with two 9-inch cakes and I've just stacked them together without any buttercream, and I'm using this head template that I have that I will link below, and I'm going to cut that out. Once I trimmed away the excess, I grabbed my small offset spatula and some Swiss meringue buttercream, and I'm going to fill those. Using a small knife, I just want to round out the edges a bit. To build the features on my clown, I'm going to sculpt them. So I have some cake scraps that I mix with a little bit of buttercream, and you're looking for a cake pop consistency. So when you roll it into a ball, it's going to stay together, it's not going to crack apart. If it's a little too dry, just add some more buttercream, or if you find that it's too squishy, just add some more cake. This is quite hands-on. I'm just making this for my boyfriend who's going to scarf it down regardless, but if you're making it for someone else, you may want to wear some gloves, even though you washed your hands, just to make it a little more food safe. To help my cake pop mixture stick to my cake better, I've just added a very thin layer of my Swiss meringue buttercream on the outside as a crumb coat. This is not chilled. I wanted the buttercream to be really tacky. I'm going to start by making the mouth, so I'm rolling out my cake pop mixture into a rope, and I'm just going to start making this big creepy smile. To help my smile stick better to my cake, you can see I'm just taking my finger and kind of pulling some of my cake pop mixture onto the buttercream, just so it really sticks all the way around. I'm not going to have to worry about it slipping off. Next, I'm filling in the middle of my mouth using more of that cake pop mixture, and I'm still keeping it pretty shallow. I want to make sure that it's not flush with the rest of the smile. I want to make sure there's depth there. Once I was happy with the shape of my mouth, I used a circle cutter to mark out where I wanted the eyes to go, and then I just scooped that out using my knife. I realized I wanted my clown to have a bigger forehead, so I just built that up using my cake pop mixture. To create some more dimension on the face, I used some more of my cake pop mixture to make like a brow bone situation, and then I just blended out the top of that brow bone into the forehead space so that it would all be flush. And then I just added little bits and pieces here and there to make sure there weren't going to be any lumps or bumps in the cake, just to smooth it out and make sure it was all rounded. I added a little more of my mixture into the eye sockets just so they weren't as deep, and then I applied a thin layer of my Swiss meringue buttercream all over my entire cake, and it's a little bit tricky because of the angles, but just take your time and you'll get there. And then I popped it into the fridge for about 25 minutes to set. Once you can touch your finger to the buttercream and none of it comes off, it's ready for the final ice. So I applied another layer of buttercream all over my cake, and then using my spatula, I just did my best to smooth it out. I put my cake back in the fridge to chill, and in the meantime, I rolled out a very thin piece of white fondant because I want my clown to have a head wound, and I positioned that over the area that I wanted to sit on the forehead. And then I just kind of flattened out the edges of my fondant to make it more flush. So when I put more fondant over top of that, you wouldn't see the outline of that little piece of fondant. I rolled out more of my white fondant on my cornstarch surface, and then using my fondant roller, I picked that up and draped it over my whole cake. And quickly, using my hands, I wanted to smooth out inside the mouth and the eyes first because that's where you're going to have some trapped air. And if you do end up having some trapped air, that's fine. Just grab a pin and poke a hole in your fondant and then just guide the air out towards that. So I smoothed out the rest of my fondant over my cake all the way down until I reached the bottom, and then using my pizza cutter, I just cut away the excess. Before my fondant firmed up and set, I grabbed my X-Acto knife and I cut a little slit over top where that small piece of fondant is underneath. And then using my fingers, I kind of just pulled it up to look woundy. Just be careful not to cut the fondant that's underneath, so don't cut too deep. And you also don't want to wait too long before you add your wound because that top fondant can stick to the bottom piece, and that's just a pain in the butt. My clown is going to be haggard looking, so using a Dresden tool or like I'm using a butter knife, I just added some lines into the forehead and I went over those with my finger. I deepened the lines around the eye socket just to look like he had a bit of a furrowed thing going on, and then I also used my thumbs just to smooth out and deepen the eye sockets a little bit. Next, I added 2 balls of white fondant and pressed those in for the eyeballs. You can use whatever color you like. I have this golden yellow fondant, and using the back of a piping tip, I'm cutting out 2 circles and placing those in the center of my eyeballs for the pupils. This is where it starts to look a little bit creepy. Using a fine tip paintbrush, I grabbed some brown food coloring gel and mixed it with a little bit of food grade alcohol, and I'm going to start painting onto my iris. I'm concentrating most of the color on the outer edge and then just dragging it into the center, and after each layer I'm just darkening the outer edge a little bit more. I rolled out 2 small balls of black fondant and pressed those into the center for the pupils, and then another little ball of white fondant for the catchlight in each eye. To start on my mouth, I'm rolling out some black fondant fairly thin, and then I'm going to drape that over my mouth. Using my X-Acto knife, I'm cutting out the inner mouth shape, just going a little bit onto the ridge. I've rolled out some red fondant into a long snake shape, and I'm going to trace that around the edge of where that black is, and then just press it down, and also where the smile comes up in the corners, I'm just pinching those together just to make them a little more pointed. I cut the seam as clean as I could and pressed those together to make sure they lined up really nicely, and then using my X-Acto knife, I went around and just added lines into the lips all the way around. To give my clown some eyelids, I used a circle cutter to cut out a couple white circles of fondant, and then I just thinned out the edges so it wasn't so thick. It took me a couple times to get the right size, but once I had it trimmed down, I just draped that over the top of the eyeball, just barely covering the iris. I used my thumb to press that down, and then I lined that seam where the eyelid meets the cake with a little bit of water. And using my balling tool, I just went over it and over it and over it, and eventually the seam does start to kind of disappear. It didn't completely go away because I didn't really work at it, but if you did, you could make it so the seam isn't even visible. I did the exact same thing with the lower eyelid, just making sure that each end of my eyelids met each other. Using the back of my paintbrush, I also added in some more lines underneath the eyelid to look like bags. Do the exact same thing to the other line and you'll have something that looks like this. Taking some more of my red fondant, I rolled that into a ball, and then I placed that right above where the lip is, and then using my balling tool, I just marked in 2 little nostrils. My clown is going to have some fangs going on, So to make those, I rolled out some balls of white fondant and then sculpted them into these teardrop shapes to the really pointed end, and then pressed those right underneath where the lip is. I added the largest teeth into the middle, and then as I worked my way out, the teeth got smaller and smaller, and I also didn't add as many on the bottom because it looked kind of weird when I did that. I have some black luster dust that I'm going to be brushing into all the creases that I made on the cake. So under the eye and all the lines I made on the forehead, and then I'm just going over that with my finger to smudge them out a bit. Every clown needs some makeup, especially creepy clowns. So with a fluffy brush and some purple color dust, I'm going over the eyelids. I want it to look pretty grungy, so I don't want like solid color. I want it to look blotchy, and I'm also adding in a little bit of black over the purple. Using some red color dust, I'm just putting that into the corner of each eye, like right where the tear ducts would be. Just making sure I'm not getting that all over the eyeball or the lid, trying to keep that color concentrated there. For the teeth, I'm taking some more of that golden yellow food coloring gel. I mixed it with a smidge of food grade alcohol, and I'm painting that over each one. And then with some brown coloring gel, I'm concentrating that more at the root of each tooth, and then just dragging it down a little bit down to the bottom. For my head wound, I'm using some straight up red food coloring gel that I'm brushing into the center, and then a little bit on the fondant that I peeled back. And if you use like thicker bits of it, if that makes sense, just blotch it on there. It does a pretty good job of looking like blood. I did darken it with some black food coloring gel, just a little bit, and I also painted onto the forehead just a little bit as well. Check it out. I mixed together more of my red food coloring gel with a little bit of black, and I mean a little bit of black. And I mixed that together with some more of my food grade alcohol, and I brushed that over the entire nose as well as the lips. And for the heck of it, I added a little more of that red-black mixture onto the ends of some of my teeth, but you don't need to do that if you don't want to. With some black food coloring and a fine tip paintbrush, I just drew on these triangles to the top and bottom of each eyelid. To give my clown some hair, I added some clear piping gel all around the edges of the head. And then I used some cotton candy and just stuck that on there. Be warned, cotton candy will wilt really fast because of the moisture in the air. So if you're making this for a party, you're gonna wanna put the hair on when you're at the party, like ready to serve it. Otherwise, it's gonna get all crinkly and weird, and you're gonna have to keep replenishing it. So cotton candy is a bit of a pain in the butt, but it looks a lot like hair versus just trying to make it out of fondant. So I like the look of it better, but be forewarned. This was the final result, guys. I love this cake. Clowns kind of freaked me out a bit, so I'm surprised I made it. I had to have it in my house all night before my boyfriend ate it, so I was kind of side-eyeing it, afraid that I was gonna wake up with it at the end of my bed. But I think it turned out super spooky, and it would be great for a Halloween party. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Be sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe for new videos every week, especially Halloween videos. I have a ton coming at you, and if you have any suggestions for a theme you'd like to see, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. Because I have so many videos, because I freaking love Halloween, I will be posting more than usual up until the end of October. Thanks again, guys, and I will see you in the next one.